In the shimmering kingdom of Vardel, where the skies were always blue and the fields were eternally green, lived King Alaric and Queen Ismene. Their lives were shadowed by a single sorrow. They had no child. They prayed daily, and finally, after many long years, their prayers were answered. When the news spread, the kingdom erupted in a celebration the likes of which Vardel had never seen. Colorful flags flew from the high palace towers, and the sound of trumpets echoed through the land. Everyone waited with bated breath. Queen Ismene endured long hours of labor, with King Alaric never leaving her side. The entire kingdom listened for one piece of news. What of the heir? But when the newborn prince was brought before the king, the festive noise ceased in an instant. A strange silence fell over the room. The baby was tiny, and his features were unusual. His nose was a bit too large for his small face, and a tuft of hair stood straight up from his head like a feather. Courtiers exchanged glances, but no one dared to speak. The baby's eyes, however, were extraordinary. They were bright and intelligent, as if he knew far more than one who had just taken his first breath. King Alaric sighed. "Is this the child for whom I prayed to the heavens?" At that very moment, a soft light bloomed in the corner of the room, and a fairy appeared, dressed in green robes. She approached the king and said, "Your Majesty, do not despair at your son's appearance. I have given him a gift far greater than beauty." The fairy continued, "Your son may not look like other princes, but his mind will be sharper than a sword, and his heart will be filled with the light of wisdom. He will surpass all the handsome princes of the world with his intellect. And I grant him this boon as well. When he grows, he will be able to bestow his own intelligence upon the one he loves most." Hearing this, the king was astonished, but the clouds of sorrow began to part from his mind. He bowed his head in gratitude. Queen Ismene too found comfort in the fairy's words and held her child close. They named him Henry Rikki. But because of the peculiar tuft of hair on his head, everyone in the court teasingly began to call him Rikki with the tuft. Intelligent loneliness. The fairy's prophecy proved true. Rikki grew to be unbelievably intelligent. Before he could even walk properly, he was solving complex riddles. The greatest tutors of the court were humbled by his knowledge. Anyone who spoke with him was instantly charmed by his wit and lively conversation. But as the days went by, the whispers about his appearance grew louder. Other children in the palace gardens would taunt him, calling him Tufty. Visitors from other kingdoms would stare at him as if he were a strange curiosity. Rikki learned at a young age that while intelligence could earn admiration, it could not win love. He always dressed impeccably, spoke politely, and tried to keep everyone around him happy. But behind his smile, he hid a deep sorrow. He would often wonder alone, will anyone ever love a plain prince like me? Two sisters, two fates. Beyond the borders of Vardel, across a range of silver mountains, lay another beautiful kingdom named Armandia. Its king and queen had also been childless for many years. At last, their prayers were also answered, but in a slightly different way. The queen gave birth to twin daughters. On the day of their naming ceremony, the very same fairy in green appeared. She approached the cradle of the elder princess and said, "I give this daughter the power to bestow her own beauty upon the one she loves most." Then she turned to the younger princess's cradle and said, "And to this daughter I give the power to bestow her own intelligence upon the one she loves most." The elder princess was named Clarice.
She was more beautiful than imagination could conjure. Her hair shone like gold, her eyes were as deep as the blue sky, and her smile seemed to light up the world. But as Clarice learned to speak, everyone realized something was missing. She struggled to understand even the simplest things. Beautiful poetry and music were meaningless to her. The younger princess, Leonore, was her exact opposite. Her face was ordinary, but her mind was as sharp and brilliant as a diamond. When she spoke, people forgot her plain looks entirely, captivated by her knowledge, wit, and eloquence.
Years passed. Princess Clarice grew even more beautiful, but her heart knew no happiness. Princes came from far and wide to seek her hand in marriage, but as soon as they began to talk, Clarice's foolishness would be revealed. They all praised her beauty to her face, but laughed at her mind behind her back. One spring morning, weary of the constant hollow compliments of the court, Clarice slipped away from the palace and went into the forest alone. She longed for a quiet place where sunlight filtered through the leaves and she could hear the gentle sound of a stream. At that very same time, across the border, Prince Rikki was also wandering in the forest, seeking an escape from his own loneliness. He was now a young man of 20. While chasing a deer, he stumbled upon a clearing where Clarice sat mournfully on a rock. Rikki was startled by her beauty, but what truly caught his attention was the deep sorrow in her eyes. "Forgive me, princess," Rikki said in a soft voice. "I did not mean to disturb you. I will leave." Clarice looked up. "No, you may stay," she said. "This forest is large enough for us both." They began to talk. They spoke of the nature around them, the songs of the birds, and the scent of flowers. Gradually, their conversation deepened. Clarice was amazed. For the first time, someone was speaking to her heart and mind, not just praising her face. Rikki's words were filled with wisdom, wit, and a deep insight. Clarice couldn't always reply with equal brilliance, but she listened, enthralled. The warmth of his conversation brought a strange peace to her heart. Eventually, Rikki said gently, "Princess, I can see this sadness behind your smile. Do you wish for a mind as brilliant as your beauty?" Clarice's eyes welled with tears. What more could I possibly wish for? But such a miracle is not possible. Rikki smiled. "It is. A fairy gave me the power to gift my intelligence to the one I love most. I will gladly give you this gift, but on one condition." "What condition?" asked Clarice. "1 year from today, if your heart desires it, you will promise to marry me. There was no force, only a promise." Clarice hesitated for a moment. The prince was kind and wise, but his face... Still, she agreed. "I promise." As Rikki gently took her hand, Clarice felt a strange, warm current flow through her mind. Her thoughts suddenly became clear and vibrant. Words came to her effortlessly. For the first time in her life, she felt whole. A year of change. From that day on, everyone in Armandia was astonished by Clarice's transformation. The princess who could barely string a sentence together was now debating with great scholars, advising ministers, and writing witty poems that were recited throughout the kingdom. Crowds gathered just to hear her speak. But with her new mind came a new dilemma. Many handsome and intelligent princes now wished to marry her. Her parents urged her to think of her future. Clarice fell into deep thought. She remembered the kind, wise, but strange-looking prince with the unruly tuft of hair. Her heart wavered between gratitude and love. She asked herself, should I marry someone I don't love just to honor my promise? Or has love already begun to grow without my even knowing it? Her newfound intellect had taught her how to ask questions,
but it wasn't giving her the answer. Finally, she remembered how Rikki's kindness and empathy had dispelled her loneliness. In the forest that day, Rikki had not looked at her beauty. He had looked at her soul. This thought settled her mind. Seeing with the eyes of love. Just before the year was up, Clarisse mounted her horse and rode towards Vardel. Her decision was clear. Rikki was waiting for her at the edge of the forest where they had first met. Clarisse dismounted, her heart pounding. As she looked at Rikki, an incredible thing happened. Before her very eyes, his features seemed to transform. The harshness of his face softened, his unusual features blended into a unique sort of charm. His eyes grew even brighter, and the tuft of hair on his head now looked just like a royal crown. Clarisse wondered, has some magic changed him? But she realized in the next moment that the magic was not external, but within her. Love had changed her perception. The fairy's boon had worked through her heart. She walked up to him and said, "Prince Rikki, I have come of my own free will. I love you, not just for the intelligence you gave me, but for the kindness with which you gave it." She knelt before him. "Will you accept me as your wife?" Rikki's eyes filled with joy. At that moment, the fairy appeared before them once more. She smiled and said, "You have both fulfilled the true magic. The real gift was not in intelligence or beauty, but in the power to see past a person's appearance to the soul within. Let your union remind everyone that love creates its own beauty." The wedding that followed united the kingdoms of Vardel and Armandia. As king and queen, Rikki and Clarisse ruled with wisdom and compassion. Their court became a place where thoughts were valued more than faces, and where knowledge and art flourished. Some say Rikki's appearance truly did change that day, transformed by the power of Clarisse's love. Others say the only change was in Clarisse's eyes. But those who knew them best didn't bother with such questions. They knew that the greatest magic of all was to recognize another soul and to love with one's whole heart. And that was the immortal love story of the prince with the tuft and his queen.